Okay, so it is about 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just so that everyone is aware, this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to the library's YouTube channel within 24 hours of the conclusion of the webinar. Welcome to the third and final part of Introduction to Microsoft Word. I hope you have learned a lot within the last two sessions, and I hope you take more after the end of this session. Let me introduce myself if you are attending for the first time. My name is Zoe Mills. I am the Adult Programming and Community Outreach Librarian at Tredyffrin Public Library. Before we get started, I do have a quick announcement that I'd like to make. All of us at the all of us at the library have been proud and delighted to be able to serve the community in a multitude of ways throughout the pandemic. Virtual programs like this one, plus electronic materials, reference chat, curbside pickup, and more have kept the community inspired, engaged, and connected. But the pandemic has also caused a loss of revenue at our libraries and has increased many costs. Now it is likely that cuts to services and programs may come. If you can give any amount, we are very grateful for your support. You can click the link in the chat to donate tonight. If you pre-registered for this session, I did email out a PDF version of this presentation, so you can also access the link to our donation page using the PDF as well. Whoops, very sensitive. Okay, before we get started, I just wanted to recap some basic skills that we talked about and learned in the last two classes. During the first class, we discussed ribbon, the tabs within the ribbon and command groups. We also learned basic skills like opening, saving, and creating templates for Word. We also discussed keyboard shortcuts like copy, paste, cut. We also covered in the second session, we covered text formatting and page layout and editing. If you need to catch up, you can watch the recordings of part 1 and part 2 on our YouTube channel. The links are provided in the handout as well as the PowerPoint. Please make use of the Q&A and chat function throughout the presentation tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that come up along the way. I just want to go over some basic skills needed to effectively use Word. So the main one is inserting text via cursor. So that's just a left click on your keyboard your trackpad on your keyboard or your mouse. Utilizing the Enter or Return key, this will help you create new paragraphs or create a new line break in your document. Copy and paste. So this is highlighting, text copying with your keyboard shortcut or with the command on the ribbon. Or you could also do right click to bring down a menu and click copy. Same with pasting. Dragging and dropping. So this is helpful for highlighting text, clicking highlighted text, dragging anything to a desired spot, and then dropping it where you would like it to exist on your document. And find and replace. So this is a handy skill to find a word using a keyboard shortcut and then using the replace command on the home ribbon to replace the word with a click of a button. If you hit Control F or Command F if you are using a Mac computer, you can a search bar will pop up and you could type in a specific word. Once you type in that word, the word program itself will find, it'll highlight all of the words within that document, and then you can replace that with a specific word. So say you misspelled someone's name, you can easily correct the spelling on every instance that you've typed in that name. And I can show you at the end of the session what find and replace can look like in action. I also just wanted to quickly show the keyboard shortcuts like copy, paste, cut, undo, redo, and save are the main shortcuts that I definitely use every time that I work in Word. And then also to quickly edit highlighted text, you could do bold, underline, and italics using a keyboard shortcut. Last session, someone asked about collapsing and expanding parts of your document, and unfortunately, I was not able to answer in the moment as I was not familiar with this skill. So I was able to put together a quick step-by-step guide about how to do it. I did my research and found out about it, so thank you for asking. I would not have known about this skill had you not asked. I do want to make a quick note that this skill is only available on Word 2013, 2016, and 2019 for Windows computers. It is not available in any Mac version of Word. So unfortunately, I won't be able to show this in action because I am working with a Mac computer tonight. But if you want to see a video of it or for more information, you can access Microsoft support to see more information, and you could just click this link. If not, I'm happy to email that specific link or just information about Microsoft support to anyone who's interested. Whoops. So the first step to collapsing and expanding parts of your document, you have to enter in content using specific text styles, and you do that using the formatting command group on your home tab. So you need to utilize the heading and the content text styles predetermined by Word. So once you utilize the heading style and then the normal text style, it'll organize your document into kind of like an outline. So after applying the heading style, you'll see a small triangle when you move your cursor over the heading, which is this image here. That little triangle is right here. You'll click that triangle and you'll have the option to collapse the body text and the subheadings below it. You could click the triangle again to expand that part of the document. And then you also have the option to collapse or expand all headings within the document. You do so by right-clicking right-clicking the heading and then clicking Expand Collapse, Expand All Headings, or Collapse All Headings, which is this menu here. All right, so moving on, I'm going to be talking about working with objects for this session. So the first one is inserting images. To insert an image from your computer files, which is the main way to insert an image, there is the option to insert using online pictures. This is kind of a tricky feature to use. It's not as easy as it is for pictures from files. I always recommend if you have to pull an image from like Google or the internet, I recommend just saving it to your computer and then inserting it from file rather than just using the online pictures. This function can slow down the program a little bit and it's a little clunky to use. But to insert an image from your computer file, you will place the insertion point where you want the image to appear. So if you want it to appear below text, you would just hit enter on your keyboard if your cursor is already on your document, and then it'll start a new line. You'll select the Insert tab on the ribbon, then click the Pictures command. The Insert Picture dialog box will appear, which is this box here. It'll just bring up a file explorer. You select the desired image file and then click Insert. If for some reason your file explorer opens up a folder that you don't recognize or does not have the image you're looking for, you can find different folders on your computer on this left-hand side here to select where it might be. So if you saved something from Google, it most likely is in your downloads. So you would just scroll up to your downloads. But once you click the picture, you could double click it to insert it automatically, or you could click it once and then click the insert button here. To resize an image, you will click and drag one of the corner sizing handles. There are top and side sizing handles as well, but that'll distort the ratio of the image, and I could show you what that looks like when we play around with Word after the session. The corner keeps the ratio intact, so it just makes the image smaller or bigger with the ratio in mind. So when you click and drag the corner of the sizing handles, the image will change size while keeping the same proportions. If you want to stretch or horizontally or vertically, you can use the side sizing handles. One of the most important skills to kind of keep in mind when using Word is text wrapping, especially when you are inserting an image or another object like a table or a shape. So when you insert an image, you may notice that it's difficult to move it exactly where you want. You can't necessarily click and drag it and drop it anywhere you want on the document. It's kind of locked in place. And this is because by default, the image is inserted with inline with text. That is the text wrapping that images are inserted with. And there are different text wrappings, which I'll highlight in a minute. But if you want to move the image freely, you'll usually need to choose a different text wrapping setting. You'll need to change the text wrapping setting if you want to move the image freely or if you want the text to wrap around the image in a more natural way. So these are the, whoops, my mouse is very sensitive, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna turn it off. So these are the text wrapping options you have. The one that I use the most is square, and it's the easiest to kind of manipulate your images or your objects on your document. And with the square text wrapping, your text will wrap around all four sides of your objects, and this is commonly used for square or rectangle images. If you are working with an odd shape like a circle, I would recommend using the tight text wrapping. This just means that the text will wrap tightly around all four sides of your object. Next is through text wrapping, and the text will flow into the white space of your object. Top text wrapping, the text will stay above your object and white space will be below. Bottom text wrapping, the text will stay below your object and white space will be above your image or your object. Behind text. So this doesn't affect the text itself. The object will appear behind the text. So this is handy. Well, the in front of text will be handy for like watercolor, I'm sorry, not watercolor, watermarks. If you are working on a document that is copyrighted, you could put a watermark that way. And then in front of text, similar to behind, does not affect the text itself, but you will put the object in front of the text. So to change your text wrapping, like I mentioned, it'll automatically be set with in line with text. So if you want to change your text wrapping so that it's easier for you to manipulate both the text and the object, the first thing that you have to do is select the image you want to wrap text around. The Format tab will appear on the right side of the ribbon. So this is a conditional tab that I mentioned in the first class that only appears when you are interacting with an object, like a picture or a table or a shape. On the Format tab, you're going to click the Wrap Text command in the Arrange group. And it'll be here. It might be a little bit different like I mentioned in the beginning. This is based off of 2013 Word. When we play around with Word after the session, I'm working with the newest version for Mac. So it's going to be organized a little bit differently, but the commands are still there. So you'll always have that wrap text button. But when you click that wrap text button, a drop down menu will appear and you'll see all of the text wrapping options that I listed previously. So you can actually hover the mouse over the various text wrapping options to preview your options to see what is best for the style that you're going for. If you decide on square, you'll select square from the drop-down menu. And then the text will be wrapped around your image and you can freely move your object around the document. It's not set in stone. You can put it in the middle if you wish. Alternatively, you can access the text wrapping options by right-clicking the object. A menu will pop up. You'll see the option for text wrapping. You'll move over and it'll bring down another drop-down menu and it'll be this drop-down menu exactly, and then you'll select the text wrapping of your choice. Next is predefined text wrapping. So this lets you move objects to a specific location on your page. So you can see here in the image, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's very rigid. It's upper left corner, middle, top middle, upper right corner, left middle, middle of page, right middle, bottom left corner, bottom middle, and then bottom right. I believe there are other layout options, but that's pretty expansive, I feel like, for the predetermined text wrapping. So if you want to do it this way, you select the image you want to move. The Format tab will appear on the right side of the ribbon. On the Format tab, click the Position command in the Arrange group. A drop-down menu of predefined image positions will appear, which are these here. And then you select the desired image position. And then the image will adjust on the document itself, and then the text will wrap around it. So this is helpful for just styling if you don't want to sit and worry about where your image is based where your text is, and you'd rather it just be kind of done for you. This is a great option to kind of lock it into place and then still have that text move around it. You won't have to worry about where the image is, and this also adheres to margins very well. So with the square text wrapping, you can move it over the margins. So if you wanted that clean inch on the left and right hand side of your paper, you can use the predefined text wrapping so that the image is aligned perfectly on that inch for you, so you don't have to worry about going over. There are some helpful tools on Word that can guide you in placement or alignment of your objects. So this is for pictures, shapes, or tables, or anything that you're inserting into your document. The first is alignment guides, and these are red lines that snap your object in alignment with other elements of your document. So say you have multiple pictures, or you have word art, or you have a table, red lines will appear when you move your object, and it'll kind of snap it into place for you so that, say, their right sides are aligned perfectly, or they're aligned perfectly in the middle. And I could show you what that red line will look like. It should automatically appear, but if it does not, the alignment guides can be found in the Page Layout tab, and then you click the Align command and select Use Alignment Guides from the drop-down menu that appears. And this is true for other Microsoft programs like PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook. And if you use Google's versions of like Word, so Google Documents, Google Slides, and Google Sheets, they have them as well. And I love the alignment guides, especially when I'm making PowerPoints such as this. It's really handy. The ruler, which is always displayed, shows you the length and width of the paper. It can help you visualize the size of your image. And again, if your ruler for some reason does not appear, you select the View tab, then check off the box next to grid lines in the Show command group. Oh, I'm sorry, that's actually incorrect. You would check off the box that reads ruler, not grid lines. I'm sorry about that. And then grid lines looks almost like graph paper, and that can help you with placement and alignment. When you print your document, that grid line will not appear. That's just a tool to help you visualize your document. And then to turn on this feature, you select the View tab, then check off the box next to grid lines in the Show command group. Next is formatting images. The first I want to cover is cropping. So this is really handy if you are working with an image that's either too large or has too much going on or too much white space and you want to just use a portion of that image, you can crop it. So first you have to do is insert the image itself, and then when the image is inserted, you select the image you want to crop, and then the Format tab will appear. On the Format tab, click the Crop command, which is this logo here. It's always going to be on the right-hand side. Cropping handles will appear around the image, and they're going to look a little bit different than the resizing handles. So the resizing handles are those little tiny white squares. The cropping handles are black lines on all four corners and then also on the sides. So you click, hold and drag the handle to crop. So if you want to just resize, keep the ratio, you can click and drag the corners. But if you want to resize completely, you could click and drag the side handles. When you're happy with the crop, so the crop is going to be the colored in or the picture itself. When you move the cropping handles, everything gets grayed out. So anything that's that dark gray will be removed from the picture. When you're happy with the crop, you just click the crop button again and it'll finish your cropping. And then as I mentioned, the corner handles are useful for simultaneously cropping the image horizontally and vertically. I mentioned shapes as another object to work with in Word. To insert a shape, you select the Insert tab and then click the Shapes command. A drop-down menu of shapes will appear. There are endless amounts of shapes that you could play around with. There are circles, squares, and you can even free draw a shape if you want to play around with that. Once you figure out what shape you want to insert, you select that shape and then click, hold, and drag in the desired location to add the shape to your document. If you want, you can enter text into a shape. When the shape appears in your document, you can begin typing. You do so by just double clicking the shape and a cursor will appear in the middle. You can then use the formatting options on the Home tab to change the font, font size, and color of the text, as well as the alignment. And I can show you what other formatting options you can play around with when you insert text in a shape. To resize a shape, you select the shape you want to resize and the sizing handles will appear. You click, hold, and drag the sizing handles either on the corners or the sides until the shape is the desired size. To rotate the shape, you click, hold, and drag the rotation handle. It'll always be at the top once you drop in a shape. It'll appear at the top. It sticks out a little bit further than the resizing handles, and it is a circle arrow. It's almost a complete circle, but the arrow is in the middle. And then you just click and then move it in a circle to rotate it. And I can show you what that looks like. It's kind of hard to explain. And some shapes also have one or more yellow handles that can be used to modify the shape. For example, with star shapes, you can adjust the length of the points, and also speech bubbles, you can adjust the arrow or the triangle part coming out of the speech bubble. You can also change the order of the shapes. First, you insert a shape and then right-click the shape you want to move. In the menu that appears, hover over Bring to Front or Send to Back, and then select the desired order. If you have experience with Photoshop, it's very similar. Imagine the document as layers. So every time you insert an object, a picture, shape, or table, it creates a layer. So if you have more than one object on your document, there are essentially multiple layers. So the first layer is the first object you enter, the second layer is the second object, and so on and so forth. So if you've entered in 3 shapes, the third shape will be on top, the second shape will be below the third shape and before or on top of the first shape, and the first shape will be beneath all of the shapes. So if you wanted to bring forward that first shape, you can do so by clicking Bring to Front, or if you want to send it all the way back, click Send to Back. In some cases, the ordering option you select will not affect the ordering of the shapes. If this happens, try selecting the same option again or trying a different option. If you have many shapes placed on top of each other, it may be difficult to select an individual shape. The selection pane allows you to select a shape and drag it into a new location. To access the selection pane, select or click Selection Pane on the Format tab. You can also change the shape. So say you enter in a circle and then decide that you'd rather have a square, you can change it. So step 1 is to select the shape that you wish to change and the Format tab will appear. On the Format tab, click the Edit Shape command in the menu that appears, hover the mouse over Change Shape and select the desired shape. You can also edit the shape style, fill and outline color, shadow effects, 3D effects, and more in the Format tab. And I can show you some of the effects that are available when we play around with Word in a little bit. There are also text boxes. So if you are working on a document that isn't, like a letter, like say you're working on a newsletter or something that is just kind of like a extraordinary type of document, something that isn't, cut in stone, that has to be a certain way, you can play around with text boxes. So to insert a text box, you select the Insert tab, then click the text box command in the text group. A drop-down menu will appear, and the easiest way that I always recommend inserting a text box is to draw it yourself. You do have options here that are built in, and they're just more like design features in a way. So if you wanted, say, something on the right-hand margin, you could click that. Or if you wanted just a simple text box with an outline, you can click the built-in version and it'll just drop it in, and then you can edit the size, the text, and everything. But the easiest is to draw the text box. If you know the size, the shape, and where you want your text box to be on your document, that's the easiest option. So when that drop-down menu appears, you're going to select Draw Text Box. Click, hold, and drag to create the text box. The insertion point will appear inside the text box, and you can now type to create text inside the text box. You can select the text and then change the font, color, and size by using the commands on the Home tab. So you can see here in this image, Luigi's Pizza has changed size and font style, and that's just by using the Home tab or the commands on the Home tab. You can move a text box much like you would move around an image. So hover the mouse over one of the edges of the text box and the mouse will change with a cross with arrows, which you can see here. When that appears, you can click, hold, and drag the text box into the desired location. The boxes are typically automatically set for, I believe, tight text wrapping, so you won't have to worry about changing that text wrapping like you do with images. But for some reason, if you want to change your text wrapping to, in front of text, below or beneath text, or to square instead of tight, you can do that if you wish, and it'll be the same as changing it for images. You can also resize the text box. You just follow the same steps for resizing a shape. And then you can also, as I mentioned, edit the shape style, fill and outline color, shadow effects, 3D effects, and more in the Format tab. Next is tables. So to insert a blank table, you place your insertion point on your document where you would like your table to appear. Then you select the Insert tab. And then you'll click the table command and a drop-down menu will appear containing a grid of squares. It's very overwhelming at first, but it's actually very easy to use once you get a hang of it. So the squares or the grid that you see are just options for how many rows and how many columns you would like your table to have. So rows will be left and right. Yes, no. Columns will be left and right, and then rows will be up and down. I always get them switched. So say you wanted a 5x4 table, so 5 columns and 4 rows, you would just move over 5 and then down 4 as you see in the picture here. Once you're happy with how many rows and columns there are, you'll left click on that bottom right square and it'll drop in the table for you. You can now place the insertion point anywhere on the table to begin adding text. And then you can simply use the tab key to move across the individual cells. So if you were working in like the Monday and you tab over, it'll move over to the second cell, the third cell, and then when you get to the 5th cell and you hit tab, it'll drop down to the first column but the second row. If for some reason you needed a table bigger than however big the grid is, you can always just make it as big as you can and then insert rows and columns within the document, which I'll go over in a few minutes. You can convert existing text into a table. So you can see here there is a shopping list, I guess, highlighted. So you have like menu items, paper items, rental equipment, and then their costs. You would highlight the text that you'd want to convert. From the Insert tab, click Table Command. select Convert Text to Table from the drop-down menu. A dialog box will appear, and then you choose one of the options in the separate text section. So you can specify the number of columns, the number of rows, how the column width will react. So auto just means that it automatically resizes based on the text within the cells or within the columns. And then you can specify that you'd like Word to create columns based on when you clicked tab. So you could see here on the text above that you have menu items and then a tabbed space and then a cost. So anytime that you've hit tab on this text, it'll create a new column. You can also do it based on paragraphs or commas or set a specific rule on when it creates a new column. I mentioned adding rows and columns. So this is for modifying tables as you insert them. So once you have a table inserted and say you missed a column or you missed a row, you hover the mouse near the location where you want to add a row or column, then click the plus sign that appears. A new row or column will then appear and you can insert your data. Alternatively, you can right-click the table, then hover the mouse over Insert to see various row and column options. Another way to do it, which I don't have listed here, is if you highlight a row completely, you right-click, you'll see an option to insert row above or below, and you could do it that way, and same for columns. You can also delete rows and columns and cells. So you place the insertion point in the row or column you want to delete. I recommend highlighting the entire row or entire column. Once you right-click the mouse, then select Delete Cells. And from that menu, it appears, a dialog box will appear, and then you select Delete Entire Row or Delete Entire Column, and then click OK, and then the column or row will be deleted. You can also modify table designs. These conditional tabs, the design and layout tabs, can become very overwhelming, especially the layout tab. But I can explain a little bit more what each command group does. But the first tab that pops up when you interact with your table is the design tab. And this allows you to edit the design, style, borders, and more of the table. So you can see here, Word has predetermined table styles. So just a regular bordered table is the kind of standard that you get when you insert a table. You can add a header row, a total row, a banded row, and more to the table. And if you click this arrow here, you can see different options. They have a lot of different options with color, different, specified columns. So if you're looking for a specific kind of table, I'm sure Word will have a predetermined style or design for you. You can also change the border styles, like removing them or having dashes instead of lines, and then also change the shading or the color of your table. The Layout tab allows you to edit things on your table, like inserting rows, columns, merging cells, splitting cells, and then also changing the height and width of cells. So this right here is inserting rows, inserting a row above, inserting a row below, inserting a column to the left or to the right. You can also merge cells. So you would just highlight cells that you'd like to merge. When you click merge cells, it'll all become one larger cell. And then you can also split cells, which is basically the opposite of merging cells. Tables in Word are auto-fit. So when you begin typing in a table, the column width will automatically distribute based on the text. But if you want to have a specific column width and a specific height of a row, you can insert inches here. You can increase and decrease to see how different the sizes are. but it's to size. So an inch will be an inch on your paper. So if you were to print it out and measure it with a ruler, the width of the column would be an actual inch. So keep that in mind. And you can also edit the alignment of the text in your cells. So it's automatically set to align to the left and then top of the cell. So you have left top, center top, right alignment top, left middle of the cell. So it'll kind of distribute throughout the middle of the cell, center middle, right middle, left lower, middle or center lower, and then right lower. You can also change the direction of the text. So if you'd rather have it going vertically instead of horizontal, you can change the direction that way. And then you can also do basic data functions, kind of like what you would find in Excel. You can sort your data. So if you highlight your data on your table, you can sort it alphabetically or chronologically. And then you can also insert basic formulas like AutoSum. There are some handy review tools just for basic or just continuous word use. Anytime that you use Word, I recommend utilizing these tools. So the first is the spelling and grammar check. You can run the spelling and grammar check by clicking the command of the spelling and grammar check located in the review tab on the left-hand side. Word also automatically checks spelling and grammar as you type. So a red line underneath a word indicates a spelling error, and a blue line indicates a grammar or syntax error. And now when you right click the red line, it'll suggest words that it thinks that you mean. Sometimes it's hit or miss. If you misspell a word, like you miss a letter or you kind of inverse a letter, it'll pick it up pretty quickly. But if you spell a word and it's kind of far from what it's actually spelled, it'll give you some suggestions that might not be what you're looking for, but it's a good help for, I know I misspell common words daily, like definitely, I don't know why, but I have a hard time spelling definitely. So the red line is my best friend when checking my spelling. The blue line, similarly, if you right click it, it'll suggest how to fix your grammar or syntax error. Usually they're missing commas or extra commas or just a misused word. Like say you use the wrong then, say you used then with an A and you mean then with an E, it'll let you know that you misused that word. I did not write it here on or include it on the review tools, but I also recommend using the thesaurus if possible. If you are writing a letter or you're writing, say, like a cover letter for a job that you're applying for, and you see a word that you think, you know, I may have used this word quite a bit and I want to see what other options are, you can highlight the word, right click on synonyms, and it'll give you suggestions based on the thesaurus built into Word. So you can kind of explore different words that you can use in place. It's pretty fun to play around with. Next is comments, and this is great for collaborative works or for professional documents a colleague or friend is reviewing for you. So you would highlight the text you would like to comment on. From the review tab, click the new comment command and add your comment. They are added in the margins on the right-hand side, so they're not actually on the document itself. They're just comments that you're adding. Think of them as like little post-it notes on your Word document. They can be suggestions or questions about what you've read. And then when you are receiving a document with comments, you can go through the comments by clicking previous or next, resolving or even answering the comment. And then you can also delete the comments once you, you know, agree with the comment or make changes that are suggested. So that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover for tonight. There is quite a bit, I did throw quite a bit at you. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for um, joining us tonight. Again, I did throw a lot at you. So if you have any questions about any of the presentations in this webinar series or anything moving forward, like say you play around with Word a little bit more and you have more advanced questions, you can always email me or you can schedule a one-on-one tech session. They are hour-long sessions and you are limited to 2 sessions a month. But you can click by scheduling this, or I'm sorry, you can schedule by clicking this link, letting me know what your learning goals are, and I'll meet with you one-on-one and we will go over your goals. So if you have questions, more advanced questions about Word that I did not cover during this webinar series, you can always email me or schedule a session. And I also provided information on how to connect with the libraries. So this is the number and email for Tredyffrin Public Library, and then the number and email for Paoli, as well as our shared website. You can also give me a call. I do have limited access to the phone. I have limited, I'm in the library only once a week, so I can only uh, speak on my work phone, very limited. So I prefer email, but if you only have access to the phone, you can always give me a call. And again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got something out of this webinar series. And next month, I believe starting the second week of February, I will be hosting a webinar series for Excel. So it'll be very similar to this webinar series where I'll just cover the basics of Excel. So basic inserting data, editing your data, and then also basic formula functions.